Well, hello, 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 hello. Looking forward to seeing you guys on tonight. This is the day the Lord has made. We can rejoice and be glad in it. Thank you guys for joining us on Wednesdays Womack here at Destiny Church. We're excited to have you guys on tonight, and exciting topic of discussion. We got some great gentlemen on to join us on tonight. I get a chance to facilitate tonight and hear from some great men of God about their views, and also some law enforcement officers, present and past. Law enforcement officer. Then we've got a avid gun collector and avid gun advocate who's going to share their perspective with us on tonight as well. So we're excited about what's going on, what's transpiring on tonight, and pray you guys would join us. Hey, and invite some people to join us on tonight for this very important issue about guns, gun laws, and gunmen. Guns, gun laws, and gunmen. So our goal tonight is to have a great discussion. No argumentation, but just discussion about what the various views are, what the various perspectives are, and help you kind of shape and form what your opinion and your view is. We discussed last week about the tragic shooting in Buffalo, and then also in here in Texas, in Uvalde, Texas, as well on last week, the school shooting. There's still information coming out about that, so we don't know all the details on that. And we definitely praying for those families who were impacted by that. No matter what your thoughts are on gun violence, we know that children lost their lives on last week, and I think we all can agree that's tragic. And we hate to see that happen, and we're praying for those families. And that city is definitely in our prayers. Buffalo is definitely in our prayers. That community has been rocked. And last I heard, the grocery store was still closed, and they didn't have quick access to food because of what transpired there. So we definitely are in prayer about all these different issues about what's transpiring. Tonight we got some special guests. I want to introduce them to you one by one. In no specific order, just want to introduce them to you. I'm going to start off with Brother Morris Smith. He's our gun advocate on tonight, and we're excited to have him on with us. And he's going to be sharing about guns. Elder Crawford. So, I think it's important for us to have somebody who just likes guns and enjoys guns. But the first name he thought about was Brother Morris Smith. I don't know why, but that's the first name he thought about was Brother Morris Smith when it came to the gun. Our next guest on tonight is Deputy Chief Curtis Pettis. He's an active police officer in the city of Austin, and we're excited for him. We've seen him climb the ladder there as a law enforcement officer there in Arlington, and so we're excited to have him on with us tonight. He's very well astute and aware of the current laws and the carry laws and things like that. And then we have our own Elder Noble Crawford. Many of you all probably don't know, but he's a former law enforcement officer himself. And so he's there as well. So we're excited to have each of you all on tonight and to be with us. I want to thank each of you all for taking the time to come and join with us and share with us. My role tonight is to be a moderator and a facilitator. I don't have a position tonight. Smile at me. I don't have a position tonight about what's right, what's wrong, what we should do. I ain't got no Greek to quote, no Hebrew, anything like that. So I'm going to leave it to these guys to kind of talk about it and discuss it on tonight. We put together a list of questions that we thought would be helpful for the overall discussion. It's good to be informed. So often we have opinions and we hear so much hype that sometimes the hype is not backed up by facts. And so Elder Crawford is going to share some of that on tonight as well. So anyway, we're going to jump right in. We got a list of about 10, 12 questions we want to share and discuss on tonight. And the brother's going to chime in. The first thing I want to talk about is the active shooter policy. What is the active shooter policy? And so one of the big issues about the shooting last week in Uvalde in particular was when you have an active shooter, what's the policy for law enforcement? It became a big issue because there were officers, I think, for up to 45 minutes outside the classroom where kids were inside the classroom with the active shooter, and they didn't go in immediately. And so as a layperson, that didn't stand out to me, but I'm not in law enforcement. And so I was talking to some law enforcement people and kind of got informed, kind of got schooled. So I want to ask Curtis if he can kind of Curtis and Noble kind of give us some insight on what active shooter procedures are and what's the procedure in situations like that.
Well, just to take a notion. So the actual protocol of active shooter situation is to go in and eliminate the threat. I don't know the circumstances, what happened in Uvalde. However, I would definitely be reading the briefs to kind of figure out what was the holdup. But the first responding officer, his duty is to go in a building or wherever the situation is taking place and eliminate the threat. We don't even worry about in particular perimeters being set up. We don't worry about any of those things. Our main objective is to go in and take the threat out, regardless of any barriers, anything of that nature. But like I said, I don't know the particulars about that particular incident, but just through my particular training and the training we provide our officers is to go in, eliminate the threat, and we'll work on the rest after that. So, Noble, you got anything else you want to add to that?
And I agree, Curtis. And that's always been the policy with law enforcement, is that whenever there is a threat, the first order of priority is to eliminate the threat to protect life and property, but more importantly, to protect life. So yes.
And I would say historically, and a lot of people may ask, where do we get that standpoint for as far as going in and taking care of the threat? Historically, we would normally sit outside the door, stack up, wait till multiple units arrive, and go in as a team. But through our learning experience in the situation that took place in Colorado on numerous occasions, we've been trained from that standpoint, lessons learned, of course, to go in and eliminate the threat. First officer on scene, and his responsibility is go in and kind of give us an idea of where he's at in relation to where the suspect is at, and go and eliminate the threat. So like I said, more to come on the Uvalde situation, unfortunate situation. But I don't want to speak on that particular. But as far as protocol in itself, it's eliminate the threat. After the threat is taken out, from there we begin to establish cold zones, hot zones, and begin to go in and tend to those individuals who have been shot and so forth. And we utilize a rapid team of officers as well as medics and fire department to go in and secure them and bring them out of the building. And it's a long process, because even though you take out a threat, we don't know. Oftentimes, we don't know if there was another party involved. So each square foot of that building has to be searched, and it's definitely a long process. And I've been in a couple of those situations where buildings have to be searched at that magnitude to look for any outliers that may be inside the building. But when anybody asks you about that particular situation, what should have been done, the protocol across the country is to definitely go in and eliminate the threat.
So here was kind of my question as a layman, and I'm not debating the issue at all, but just a question that came to my mind. I thought, well, if there are 20, 25 kids in the classroom, there's a shooter inside the classroom, then why is it more? Why wouldn't it be safer to kind of see what's happening, assess the situation, as opposed to just charging the door, going in, and now we got this rapid fire, and kids are in the midst of this rapid fire. So what's the rationale there?
What Pastor, unfortunately, that's an unfortunate situation for one. But this history has shown us, as we sit outside and wait, things are unfolding. And the quicker we get to a situation, the more lives that could potentially be saved. I would have to let Morris kind of chime in on. I would like to see Morris chime in about high-powered rifles, how quickly people can be. I wouldn't just say eliminated. How people can quickly be killed. A lot of people think, well, he had a rifle. Was it an automatic rifle? Was it a semi-automatic rifle? And when those things come into place, things happen in seconds, and we're faced against time. And the longer we wait, the more opportunity that individual has. The more pressure we put on him quickly, the more he'll cower down.
Got it. So the overall goal and rationale is to the quicker you address it, you minimize you minimize more potential casualties, and then you put greater pressure and cause the person who's the gunman to make quicker decisions, and thus you can eliminate them quicker.
Yes.
Okay.
The opportunities you allow him to have to sit back and wait while he's thinking, the more pressure you bring to him, the more he's got to think much quicker. And those situations work out better for law enforcement. Those people are oftentimes not trained to think in that magnitude with gunfire coming towards them.
Okay, got it. That raised the question of the right to bear arms. So there's definitely advocates on both sides of the Second Amendment. Some to bear arms, some not to bear arms. I talked to some pastors, and they're in favor of bearing arms. I talked to other pastors, and they're not in favor of bearing arms. Brother Morris Smith is an advocate for.
Yes, Ham, is there a question there?
If you can just share your position about bearing arms and your position on the Second Amendment right.
Sure. So, I'm an American citizen. The Constitution of the United States guarantees my God-given rights, amongst one of which happens to be the right to keep and bear arms. The police have no duty to protect me. The police come and do the paperwork and pick up the bodies after something bad happens. I personally don't ever want to be in a situation where I have to beg and plead somebody to, please don't hurt me, don't hurt my wife, don't hurt my kids. I want to at least have an opportunity to protect myself, which is one of my rights as a human being.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll leave it at that.
Okay. And Noble and Curtis, you guys are law enforcement people. What do you all think about your duty to protect the citizenry? Would you agree with this statement that it's not your responsibility to protect individuals and their families?
I think it is. I think
I
it is.
was I was referring to Supreme Court decisions. Let me put it that way. I'm sure
Mhm.
individual police officers feel they have a responsibility and accountability, but the Supreme Court has made it clear that they do not have a quote unquote specific duty to protect someone else.
Okay. Did you all have any other comments about the Second Amendment rights and what those are and the various
Well,
positions in those?
well, the thing for me, in law enforcement, we give an oath to protect and serve. So, I mean, every day I go to work, I'm always thinking about my due diligence of preserving lives, and I think that any citizen would think that kind of that same way. But at the end of the day, as an officer, as a peace officer, it's my obligation to do what I can to protect human life. Even though I'm given the authority to take human life, just as well as I work every day to protect it.
So, Curtis, in your experience in law enforcement, do you generally, well, how do I put that? My guess is that a lot of times you come after the crime has been committed, whatever the crime is. I'm sure there are instances where you're able to prevent crime, and that's great. But when someone's in trouble, they've got, seconds to make a decision, seconds to protect themselves or a loved one, right? So even the most conscientious and accountable and responsible law enforcement officers, if they're not there, whose responsibility is it, right? It's the citizens, I would think.
Mhm. So yeah, I would agree with the citizens. The citizens are, I mean, they're responsible for trying to protect folks, but they're not held accountable. When I think about protecting and preserving life, I think of things such as a barricaded persons call, where you have a domestic disturbance. The suspect has shot outside the house and potentially shot a family member, and the family member made it to safety, but he barricaded himself in the house. We could take extreme measures if we chose to do so, but that's not how we practice and we train. We practice to train and still work to preserve that individual's life at all costs. Whether we do gas them out, we take as much caution and precaution to work to get the guy out through negotiations, things of that nature, versus going in a physical assault. So
Yeah, no,
those.
I get that, and I definitely respect it, and I'm thankful that when I dial 911, someone's going to come help. But when somebody kicks in my door at 2 a.m. in the morning, there's no police there. It's me, my 9mm, and my wife, and we've
And I
got
would
to do
say
it.
Texas provides you more. Texas provides you more leeway to do whatever you need to do to protect yourself than any other state. So yes, I agree with that sentiment.
Right. And my position is I just want to preserve that because I know there's no one between me and the bad guy. It's just me.
True, I agree with that.
Awesome, awesome. Well, guys, thank you for sharing that so far, and that there are definitely various views on the Second Amendment rights. Um, can you all talk to us about what are the general gun laws in Texas? Elder, you may want to speak to that. Curtis, you're active law enforcement, and so you can speak to it from a penal code perspective. What's the current penal code when it comes to guns? I know it's probably quite more extensive than what most of us think or know.
Well, yes, and just a little information. September the 1st, 2021, Texas provide open carry law where everybody's not everybody in particular, but I'm gonna kind of name some situations where you can and cannot pack a weapon. One, you have to be at least 21 years of age, no prior felony convictions. Um, you can't be intoxicated. Um, and also too, you can have a protective order out for you. So that those are a few things as it relates to just the penal code. But a couple case questions were raised earlier about, hey, so how do I know how to carry a gun inside when I'm traveling in my vehicle? Most people think that they could just put the gun inside. And we're talking, and speaking about handguns in particular, most people feel like they could put the handgun just in the front seat of the car and just take off and start driving, but that's not the case. You have to actually have your handgun concealed, whether it be underneath the seat, whether it be in the hand rest, whether it be in the glove compartment, whether it be in the trunk. So those are things that a lot of people are not aware of, and they find themselves in difficult situations as they're going along their day carrying their guns. So Texas has some really, I would say, that's some pretty loose laws as it relates to packing your gun. You can also pack your gun on your side holster as well. So absent of any questions, those are some of the provisions and some exceptions of when you can and cannot carry a gun. I think as far as a rifle, 18-year-old can be in possession of a rifle. Also, too, you can carry your gun to and from your house. If you're walking out the house, take it to your car. You have the right to be able to do that as well. So those are some of the things I just wanted to point out. Noble, you got anything else you want to add?
Yeah, whenever I'm traveling or in my car, either whether it's a short drive or a long drive, if I'm carrying my weapon, I put it in the glove compartment or in the console. So it's concealed even in the car, so that if I'm stopped for any reason, which I hopefully not, but it's not going to be visible, because I'm not a holster carrying kind of a person, but I have carried my weapon in the car with me before.
And just for educational purposes, I mean, if you are packing your gun and you have it in your vehicle, it's always good if you get stopped to tell the officer, "Hey, I have a gun." Nobody shouldn't be treat you any kind of different way, but it's always good to have that kind of awareness that the person is in possession of a gun while you're dealing with that individual versus that person coming into some form of search and is like, "Hey, you never told me you had a gun in the car." And things are different now because before we had the concealed handgun license that you had to present if you were stopped. Now that's out of the window now. You don't have to have that. But I think it's for people who want to carry a gun, and I think it's good to be knowledgeable of what you have. A lot of people think it's a good law to have in place, which I don't have an issue with it, but I have an issue with people that don't understand that they can't be really careless with their guns. They have to definitely make sure that they're monitoring their weapons, because oftentimes we have a lot of kids that get killed by their own parents' weapons. So also the last statement, just if you decide to carry a gun, just make sure that you keep them out of children's reach, and that you actually definitely let an officer know if you are stopped on a traffic stop or somewhat.
Part of the discussion now is about not just the use of guns, access to guns, but also mental health. What comments do you guys have, and what considerations should be taken between mental health and gun laws, and mental health and carrying, et cetera, et cetera? Brother Morris, what are your thoughts? Mm-hmm.
So the federal government has a list of things and items that makes you a prohibited person when it goes to purchasing a firearm. Mental health issues is one of those things. If you have mental health issues, you're not legally able to purchase a firearm. But that kind of goes back to the point that criminals don't obey laws. It's already illegal for crazy people to have guns. I mean, what more can we do?
Okay. And so, I think that when it comes to mental health, I think that one of the issues is that I'm not sure it's always monitored, and people are always aware of the mental health issue, especially at the time maybe of the purchase of a gun, and then people who have fragile mental, because I prefer to say it more sensitive that way, fragile mental states. Noble, do you have any thoughts about that and what should happen with mental health and guns?
Yeah, I think the background checks that the gun manufacturers, the retailers are supposed to run a purchaser through. The law is there that covers mental health and every other condition that a purchaser might be profiled as. But adding to that law or reacting to an incident like the one in Uvalde is basically what has created the law to be what it is, because when James Brady was shot, when they attempted to assassinate the president, they came up with the Brady bill.
Mhm.
There was another piece of legislation when President Kennedy was shot. They came up with a bill that says that you cannot purchase a firearm by mail, because that's what this guy did. And so it's like legislation reacts to what happens. And over the years, I think they have covered all the bases. And so, if I go to buy a firearm and they don't run a background check, or if they run one and they don't find out that I've had some mental issues and they sell it to me and they do it legally, we still got a problem, you know.
Yeah. So, Brother Noble, I bought a lot of firearms in my time. I have never, ever, ever purchased a firearm from a gun dealer, a legal gun dealer, and not had a background check run. It's a problem that's not really a problem when they talk about it in the media. Now, I will say there is one caveat. In the state of Texas, if you have a concealed handgun license, you've already gone through all the background checks. And so they don't actually have to do the background check when you go to purchase a firearm from a legal firearms dealer. You do have to present your handgun license, but they don't actually process the paperwork with or process the background check because it's already been done. So my only thing is buying a gun from a legal gun dealer. I've just never seen it happen where a background check wasn't done.
And this kid Ramos, the apparently in his background check didn't indicate anything about his mental illness.
Yeah, I don't know that they
Okay.
had diagnosed him at that point.
You
So
know,
that when they talk about the cracks, that might be one that slipped through the cracks.
so legislation. My point is that legislation does not solve all the problem. Because there are so many other factors and variables, that exist in this particular scenario for sure.
My question
Okay.
would be, Morris, does the background, when the background check is done, how do they differentiate between somebody having a mental health issue? That's something reported to the state, because those things are very confidential. So I'm really trying to figure out how, if somebody did a background check, how would they know? I think it's something that you have to actually, don't you have to actually speak on it?
So I won't pretend to know the answer of all the reporting, and I believe it's different from state to state to the NICS. But there's also a questionnaire on the 44, well, a question on the 4473 that asks about your mental health history. Have you ever been um, involuntarily committed or some words to that effect?
Yeah. Because
But
I don't know if there's anything that I know of, and I can't really speak to it as well, that's in place, that's an actual running database. So when that person is ran, that something comes back and triggers the application indicating that this person has some mental health issue.
yeah, I mean, if they're going to do the background check, they should do a comprehensive background check. Now, whether or not they should be doing a background check is a whole nother story uh, that's open for debate. But I agree with you. If a background check is going to be done, it should be comprehensive. The problem is NICS is notorious for being slow, being down, and giving bad results because not all agencies are funneling arrest records and that kind of stuff into the NICS system.
That's the federal database you're talking about, right?
Say again? Yes, NICS is the background, the database,
Mhm.
National Instant Crime something, but that's where they check you to see if if you're a criminal or not.
But isn't it the case that if Texas have their own criteria for background checks, that information don't necessarily go in the NICS?
I don't know about if currently though it goes to NICS. I don't know what they have proposed about their own background check system, but currently it goes to NICS. Every state in the union, to my knowledge, is supposed to be reporting to NICS.
Okay.
But that's a government issue, right? That's a matter of government being inefficient because the laws are already there.
Okay. When I'm thinking about mental health, I'm thinking about more so. Um, I think that normally a person doesn't go and get their weapon when they're having a mental crisis. So how do we handle it when a person has a mental crisis, apart from the time of the purchase of a gun, and or a person that's going through a mental crisis has a gun license, but then we can't, because of mental health laws, we can't go and apprehend a person. We can't have a person sequestered until they take their medications. How do we handle those situations? Because typically it's not a person who's going to get a gun while they're in the midst of a crisis.
You know,
We go ahead. No, go ahead.
if we just reference this Uvalde situation, okay, let's say he got past that first barrier where the background check didn't send up a red flag. And then he was on his way to the school. Well, he fired shots on the way to the school. And so that right there should have alerted law enforcement, because the people did call the police to report him. Okay, he gets to the facility. They have a active shooter policy, according to what I've heard in the news. And that policy requires all of their doors to be locked. So that's another barrier based on the policy. But apparently they weren't applying the policy because that door was open and he walked right through it. And so there are barriers that are set up that if you get past one, hopefully you don't get past the second or the third one. Of course, the last barrier is law enforcement. And now we got this problem of law enforcement waiting outside too long.
Well, see there, Brother Crawford, that brings up my point to who is going to protect you when something bad happens. This is not the first time that they've had a conversation about law enforcement not going in quick enough, not being active role enough. And I don't fault the guys. I don't. I wasn't there. I don't know. But I'm just saying this is a reoccurring theme we've heard. So if somebody at that school was armed and able to protect themselves, the children, the staff, chances are we would not have had the situation we currently, have with all these kids dead and teachers dead. All I'm saying is at the end of the day, the police, you can't count on them to protect you. You can't count on policies. You can't count on procedures. You can't count on any of that. You got to count on yourself. And what we've done is we've effectively neutered the people that are responsible for our schools, so that when bad people do what they do, which is bad stuff, they have no recourse, no way to stop bad people. They have no way to protect their kids. So that, if you ask me, that's one of the things I would look at, because until you find a way to make criminals think twice about attacking schools because they figure no one there is going to be able to stop them, this is going to continue to happen.
All righty, guys, our time is running here, and it's definitely a interesting topic, and people have various views about various things. I do think that mental health is a major thing in our culture and our society. I saw two comments. One was by Miss Lisa that mental health is HIPAA protected, and so that's a factor. And we got to think about, when can we intervene? When can we transcend or interject on those HIPAA rights? Another one said that people don't really recognize people have mental issues until afterwards. And so it ends up being a reactive response to what's transpiring. I want each of you all to take a minute or so. I want to encourage those of you all who are on the chat tonight, if y'all can kind of drop your questions in there, your comments. We definitely want to hear from you guys on tonight. We don't want to dominate. We want you guys to be involved, be engaged. I know you guys got viewpoints and perspectives, so please post those on tonight. We definitely want to hear what you have to say about this topic that's happening. It's getting closer and closer to us. So I want to make sure that you guys are talking about it. You guys are posting about it. You guys are educated and informed. I didn't know about the variation of the rules when you got inside your car. And so I kind of like, well, if anybody can carry, I thought you just put your gun on your seat in your lap when you're driving down the street. And Deputy Chief Pettis is telling us, that's not the case. You can't do that. It's got to be at some level concealed in the car as well. And so that's insightful for me. There's a distinction between a handgun and a long gun. And so the laws vary from a handgun to a long gun. I do have a question for you guys. People talk about the Do you guys' thoughts differ when it comes to automatic rifles like the AR-15? Do you guys' thoughts and ideas change based upon the type of gun it is, the size of the magazine, how fast it can decimate life? Any thoughts about that?
Well, my opinion is that why would you need an assault weapon uh, to carry instead of a handgun or something like that? Um, because an assault weapon is exactly what it is. It's an assault weapon. It's for a combat situation. It's not for just even that scenario that you talked about, Morris, with somebody kicking in your door. Uh, you know, you could handle that with a handgun. I mean, if you're alert enough to do it. I think having an AR-15 versus a handgun is not going to make a difference. It's just how you respond to that situation. So,
Oh,
so my opinion is that um, maybe AR-15s can be used for sport, but not just to purchase and carry around like a long gun.
so AR-15 is not an assault weapon. It's not an automatic weapon. It's a semi-automatic rifle, like many other semi-automatic rifles that people have in this country. Um, it's not up to me to say why I need an AR-15. It's my right to have an AR-15. It's the most popular semi-automatic rifle in the United States. So I don't have to prove why I need to have it. I can. The question becomes, why shouldn't I have it? And I haven't heard a cogent argument from anyone to say why we shouldn't have the most popular semi-automatic rifle in the country. It shoots the same bullet that many other hunting rifles, sporting rifles, etc. shoot. It's no more powerful. In fact, it's less powerful than most hunting rifles that people shoot deer with. So there's a matter of aesthetics, and the media has put it in our minds that it looks a certain way. It resembles the M16 in
16.
some ways, and so now it's a weapon of war. The fact is, that's the most popular rifle in the country. And if it were really that much of a problem, people would know. Most shootings don't happen with AR-15s. Most shootings happen with handguns. So if we're going to have a real conversation about it, then you have to be willing to say, I'm going to ban handguns because that's what most people are getting shot with. And frankly, I don't think that's dogs going to hunt in the United States.
Well, I kind of understand. I kind of understand both perspectives. Um, I think that there are so many weapons out on the street today. When I think you mentioned the M16, and there are definitely automatic assault rifles out. So the question raised is, I think, just not to hinder on either party's um, position, but the question is raised to me just as a law enforcement professional. Um, why is it that we assume that we need something that high power to protect ourselves? Because
Because when
oftentimes, again,
because when someone attacks your home or attacks you in a car, or carjacks you, generally it's not necessarily one person. It might be three or four people running in. And so then that becomes a magazine capacity issue. I would much rather be able to protect myself with a standard 30 round magazine than a 10 round magazine. And people think about, oh, it's like in the games, in the videos, if one person comes, I shoot one person with one bullet. It doesn't work that way. A lot of people in the heat of the moment, and depending on the amount of training they have and the adrenaline pumping, you might shoot 3, 4, 5, 6 rounds, and get one or two hits. If my wife is in this house at night and somebody comes in the door, I need to make sure she has the best chance of protecting herself and our family. And magazine capacity is one of those things.
I think it's definitely a interesting issue, and it's definitely great hearing some of the views about what size magazines you're going to have, the power of the rifle. I think there's a lot of misinformation. Like, I didn't know that the AR was the most popular rifle that was out there. Didn't know that it was there were other rifles that were more powerful than that. I have heard the argument about, well, what's the importance of having a a military style weapon in a non-militarized zone. And so I have heard that, but I think that was kind of limited information. So this has definitely been helpful. It's given us more information that we can calculate and use to make our decisions. We got some comments that are listed on there, and thank you guys for sharing. There was another shooting today in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and so they're going to continue to be shootings, and it's definitely sad, as Trellis has said. It really is sad to see all these things that are happening in our country, in our world. Anytime there's a loss of life, no matter how we get there, it's always tragic, always painful, always frustrating. And so let's remember to be prayerful for all the victims. Let's not politicize it, because there are people who are losing their lives in these situations. And let's be prayerful for our country. Let's share our faith with people. I want to ask you guys to close out with a 1 minute last comments, last word for us. And so let's start with you, Deputy Chief. If you can start us off with one last word.
So, I mean, of course, the situations that have happened just throughout our country with the mass shootings and things of that nature is definitely traumatic. Uh, Unfortunately, we are amongst evil. As Pastor would always say, we are broken people. We're all broken. We all have our own independent issues, and nor do I perceive that America can be totally safe. But ultimately, I think it takes a group of individuals coming together and collaborating to come up with new innovative ideas on how do we continue to protect our citizens. I don't believe that it's ever going to be a foolproof way that everybody will be protected. And I'm a police officer, but I do think that our legislators can do their due diligence of coming together, having more discussions about innovative ways to come up with some ways to control some of the gun laws, and changing some of the gun laws to put things in different perspectives. I do think that if I beg to say, a lot of these people who commit these incidents don't have extensive criminal histories. A lot of people assume that they do, but they don't. But more to come. I'm looking forward to hearing what's going to happen moving forward. If anything, to be honest with you, about protecting citizens' lives. So I'll leave with those words.
Elder Crawford, it's on you.
Yes, I think that, after hearing what all three of us has to say, I think we agree more than we disagree, in terms of just our personal opinions. One thing I would say is that if we have, as often as we have the opportunity, or as we have the opportunity, to educate our kids about gun violence and about the law and that kind of thing, I think it's better to start that early rather than wait for them to be involved in some kind of very unfortunate incident and have a traumatic experience, seeing their friends die or something like that. And so I'm for early education in terms of what the Constitution says about the right to carry, and as well as what the laws are, and how the laws are not enough sometimes, because as has been said, there are evil people in the world, and there are people that are going to break the law, and there are people that are going to kill other people. So, but that doesn't mean that we can't be proactive, that we cannot be instructive about the direction that we need to go in. So those are some of my thoughts.
Brother Morris, final words.
I would say there are literally thousands of gun laws, gun related laws on the books, and we still have this issue. My question would be, what's the next gun law that's going to be the magic bullet that's going to solve the issue when the thousands that have come before haven't? I would also say that the cities, states, and localities that have the tightest, strictest gun control laws also have some of the highest crime. Chicago comes to mind, New York comes to mind, LA comes to mind. It takes an act of Congress to get a gun, legally get a gun in those places. So one more gun law is not going to make a difference. And then finally, I guess I would say, I've got a quote from Benjamin Franklin. Those who would give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety. Ben Franklin. What that means to me is this will never be a 100% safe country. You have to decide, do you want to be free, or are you willing to give up your freedom to have that feeling of safety, whether it's real or not? Me, I choose freedom, and I'll take the risk of not living in a 100% safe nation.
Well, I want to thank each of our guests on tonight for coming on and sharing their perspectives and sharing their views. Hopefully, you guys found it informative as I did on tonight. I want to give you guys one warning: don't cross Morris Smith. All right. That would be a very bad decision. All righty. And so I want to thank you all for showing us tonight. We look forward to seeing you guys this Sunday as we start a new series called Unpredictable, the Ways and the Wisdom of God. Sometimes God doesn't act the way we think he should. And so we start that series on this weekend. I want to remind you all, we got our children's ministry open, and boy, they're having a ball back there. And our children's ministry is growing, expanding each week. Our attendance is growing and expanding each week. So we're excited about that. We got a couples event on this Friday. So I encourage you guys to come. I second that emotion, meeting your mate's emotional needs. And so I want to encourage you guys to come out and hear about that. Don't automatically assume you're meeting your mate's emotional needs. Come out and learn. Maybe you are, maybe you're not. So I want to encourage you guys to bring your mate, come out, have some fun on this Friday as well. So we're looking forward to that. And then we got our men's breakfast coming up as well. We're going to celebrate our men. And then that Sunday, we're going to do Men in Black. And so, guys, we got a lot of stuff happening again. We're starting to expand our wings again at Destiny Church. So we're super excited about that. We thank God for each of you all. Thank God for our presenters. God bless you. God keep you is our prayer. Thank you again, gentlemen. Have a good night.